We touched on diabetes. We had some questions regarding hormonal imbalance. Today, we're going to touch a bit on what does it mean when your feet is swelling, because a lot of persons having problems with the ankle swollen. There are some persons based on their profession, for example, persons who work in security. Once you're standing for long hours, nurses, doctors, or you're a profession where you're on your feet a lot, operating machinery, whatever the case may be, that's something you need to be very careful with, because you find a lot of the times persons who stand for extended periods of time usually end up in a situation where they have swollen limbs, ankles, by their calves, they seem to be very swollen. In some cases, they find that they get up in the morning and their feet is all, slim and nice, not swollen. And then by a few hours in the day, they realize that it becomes very swollen. So that's what we're going to discuss. What does that mean? What could you do to correct that situation? Of course, what do we at Batson and Associates do to address that? And how could you get benefit from that? Of course, keep in mind the program is interactive. So I will allow third base to give you the information as regards to the WhatsApp and the telephone numbers that you can, of course, get in to have a conversation with us. So over to you, sir.
Yeah, the numbers are 627-3223, 627-3223, or 625-2257. And indeed, your WhatsApp messages only 306-1065. Of course, we're talking, holistic health. So any of your health questions and remedies, of course, Dr. Batson will be able to help you. I know you're talking about those who stand for a long time, swollen feet. But what about that proper footwear? Can that help as well?
Of course,
definitely. Buy proper footwear for your profession.
Yeah, excellent point. Yeah, barbers, for example, who again stand for long hours. They actually have an industry in the industry now. They have mats that you could stand on that actually helps to alleviate the amount of pressure that you would have on that particular surface.
Kitchen, like in the kitchen and all too.
Exactly.
Kitchen is
Standing for long hours, yeah. Footwear, of course, is also good as well. Those inner soles that they have, like the doctor shows, and there are different ones now that you could actually put in your shoes to actually help with that situation. Proper shoes on the whole. Persons who wear steel tip boots. So people who work in industries, so maybe oil and gas, you're working on a construction site, that type of thing, they as well need to be extremely careful because of the type of footwear that they wear because of health and safety. You have to wear a steel tip. Steel tips are not the most comfortable shoes that they have. So I always tell persons, if you're wearing steel tip, at least try and get proper socks and those inner soles to put inside of there, so that at least you can lessen or negate some of the negative effects of wearing shoes like that for extended periods of time, especially if you're a diabetic. So as you so rightfully pointed out, your shoe is very important. I always tell persons that good sneakers, once your work environment allows it, you could always change your shoes, put on a proper sneakers. Even women who wear high heel shoes, we like to see you all looking nice with the shoes, but the problem with wearing those shoes for extended periods of time significantly causes problems with your musculoskeletal system, especially your back. A lot of problems with your spine. Some persons end up with things like sciatica and that type of thing. So, of course, definitely, your footwear is something that you need to pay very close attention to. So, usually, when you have swelling of limbs, it really points to a poor circulation issue, more so than a kidney problem. Um, if you experience, if you do have a kidney problem and you end up with swelling in the feet, believe me, that's usually coming down to the end stage of kidney problems. Persons who have kidney or renal issues, usually in the beginning of those issues, even in the intermediary aspect of that, you don't get swelling like that. So usually, most of the time, if you're experiencing that, is poor circulation. Now, I would have discussed poor circulation on numerous occasions. I always tell persons the circulation that we're dealing with today, as it relates to your legs, your limbs, your lower limbs, is what is known as systemic circulation, which is circulation below your heart. So if you're experiencing that swelling, fatness in the calves, pins and needles, cramping in your calves, burning under your feet, well, that is even more um signs that you have a problem with poor circulation, especially circulation in what is referred to as the extremities. So tips of your toes, you might be getting things like pins and needles. You feel like ants, ants walking on you. You're getting sporadic shocks. You might be getting problems with cramps as well. All of those point again to situations with poor circulation. At Batson Associates, we do carry a wide range of products for circulation to really focus and deal with that, especially diabetics, because we do deal with a lot of diabetics. So Santulan, for example, is a good one. Santulan, of course, as I would have highlighted before, is a 7-channel detox that detoxifies kidney, colon, bloodstream, liver, lymphatic system, skin, and your lungs. Now, why would that be important or beneficial for someone who has a swelling circulation, a swelling problem, swollen limbs as a result of poor circulation? Here's why. Keep in mind that your circulatory system, which comprises of your heart and other circulatory organs, so capillaries, veins, blood vessels, lining of blood vessels, that type of thing, that system is cleaned primarily by what is known as your lymphatic system. Now, your lymphatic system, unlike your circulatory system, does not have a pump. Your lymphatic system works with two things. It works primarily with gravity and it works with water, which is why I always highlight the importance of proper hydration and drinking the correct amount of water, which is primarily your body weight divided by 2 in ounces. So as it relates to what we're discussing here with swollen limbs, swollen ankles, especially for persons who stand for extended hours. So to prevent that from happening, that is one of the things that I would suggest that you do. Look at your water intake. Another thing that works too is elevating your feet. So what you could actually do is, sometimes in the afternoon when you're relaxing, you get a chair, you sit on the chair, but you're elevating your foot. So it must be at, if we're looking at angles, that would be an angle of what, boy? That could be about maybe 270, at 270 degree, where you could actually do it lying or sitting. So you put like 2 pillows and you put it under your feet. That helps in some extent. For those of you who may have things like varicose veins, which medically is known as varicosis, or who may have what is known as spider veins, well, that's a clear indication of poor circulation, especially in the systemic aspect, which is circulation below your heart. As we continue, we'll touch on poor circulation above your heart and what are some of the symptomology associated with that, which is usually things like
also get like a lot of cramps in their feet and stuff.
well, cramps definitely is an indication again of poor circulation. It also has to do in most cases too with what is known as mineral deficiency. Your body is comprised of a number of minerals. The important, very, very important ones, macro, would be things like magnesium, selenium, those type of things. Usually, if it is you're getting cramps excessively, it can point to some issue with calcium, magnesium, even potassium as well. So that's also something that you need to pay attention to. In addition to that, you also need to look at your absorption or what is known as assimilation, because a lot of times you may be using things, but the body is not really assimilating it properly. A perfect example too is water, which is why when you're drinking water, there are few rules for drinking water. Ideally, you should drink water sitting and not standing or lying down. Ideally. And the reason for that is that when you stand and drink water, it actually puts a lot of stress on your joints. It puts a lot of stress on your kidneys. You shouldn't gulp water when you're drinking it. So it means you should sip progressively over a period of time. That would help. Drinking cold water is a no-no because your body is not able to actually utilize cold water immediately. It has to bring it down to the room temperature or temperature that your body is actually able to utilize it. And one of the things too, as well as I was saying, a lot of the times some persons they drink water, but your body doesn't absorb the water properly. Because remember, in hydration works from a cellular level. Cells give you tissues give you organs, organ systems give you the body. So a perfect example, you might be experiencing the same swelling situation, and that as well is some indication of dehydration too. Why? Because what your body does, because it knows it's constantly in a dehydrated situation, what your body is going to do is going to start to store water. So that's when you actually start to get swelling. Usually the doctors would recommend some sort of diuretic for you, which would be a water tablet, Lasix, Benadryl, or something like that, which is designed to really help water leave the body. The problem with that is that you don't want to be using that for extended periods of time because how diuretics work, they remove sodium and water follows sodium. So you could end up in a situation where you end up with cardiovascular problems later on for using that for an extended period of time. Remember, it's a matter of addressing the root cause of the problem. Why do you have a problem with poor circulation? Why is it that your limbs swelling? especially in a situation where you're standing for extended hours, because you don't want a situation where the circulation becomes so poor that you end up with a venous ulcer, which is where the veins in any part of your lower extremities become swollen and they actually rupture or open, because then there's going to be a lot of problems, especially if you're a diabetic person. So pay attention to that. Remember our telephone numbers and locations. We are located on the first floor of Money Talks building. That is Money Talks building in Montrose, Shogunas. That telephone number is 222-8261. That's 222-8261. Keep in mind, we are live on our social media platforms. We are Batson and Associates Limited on Facebook. On Instagram, we are Batson and Associates TT. And on YouTube, we are Batson and Associates Trinidad. Let me allow Toothbase to remind you of the telephone numbers and the WhatsApp so that you could at least call if you may have any questions as regards to health or products and services of Batson and Associates.
Once again, folks, those numbers are 627-3223, 627-3223, and 625-2257 on the WhatsApp 306-1065. We do have a WhatsApp question here about constipation. What could I do for constipation, and how often should one be going to the bathroom per day?
How often? Repeat that, sorry? I didn't hear that.
How often should one go to the bathroom? Should all be going off for
Okay, right. Bowel movement. The thing is, it's dependent on how much you eat, you know. The thing with a lot of persons is that they confuse what is to be expected with everybody else with themselves. So, in order for you to have proper, at least 2 bowel movements for the day, the thing is, you should not have nothing, you shouldn't have anything less than 1. If you're not, well, 1 at least, I should say rather. Ideally, based on the amount of meals that you have, and if your meals have a lot of fiber in it, which they should, so things like your grains or your oats, things like nuts, almonds, cashew, things like your chia seeds, that type of thing, you would get at least 2 to 3 bowel movements for the day, which is good because what fiber does, it decreases the transit time of waste in the gastrointestinal system. Remember, your small and large intestines primarily is about 23 feet in length. So that entire digestive process takes some hours, especially depending, excuse me, on the meal that you may have. So once you have sufficient fiber in the diet, your bowel movement is going to be more. Fiber and water is very important. So minimum 1, maximum maybe like about 3, 4. What you also need to pay attention to, I think a lot of persons only look at if they have difficulty in terms of having very hard stool or situation with constipation. What can also be problematic as well and point to early signs of gastrointestinal problems is if you're going too much or you find that your stool is watery or very soft in nature. So there are conditions which are known as inflammatory bowel conditions. Under that category, you find diseases like Crohn's, irritable bowel syndrome, diverticulitis, and such. The thing is, usually those are accompanied by watery stool or very soft stool, and high frequency. So you might find you're going to the washroom like 6 times a day, 7, 8, and your stool is very watery, gassy. That is something that you should pay close attention to. Maybe if you can give us a visit, have a blood analysis done, have your magnetic resonance analysis done, which works with frequencies. So that actually gives us the ability to determine gastrointestinal health. So is it that your food is digesting properly? Do you have problems with malabsorption, which so many persons have? Do you have issues with leaky gut? Is it that you find even things like perspiration, breath, your hair, if you're getting any sort of off odor or something like that, that's nothing to be ashamed of. A lot of people don't understand that internally, especially if it is you a person who consume a lot of protein, a lot of meat, because of that high amount of nitrogenous waste that meat produces during that whole digestive process, you find that your stool going to smell a little higher, your perspiration, whatever the case may be. So it's just a matter of, really cleansing those 7 channels of detoxification. And that's where Santulan come in, because that cleans and detoxifies kidney, colon, bloodstream, liver, lymphatic system, skin, and your lungs. In terms of price, quite reasonable. And the thing is, that supplies anywhere between 7 to 10 days. And you usually use 1 pack at a time. So we normally recommend like about 4 packs. But a lot of persons, sometimes they would take 2. They use the two, and then when you're two finished, you come back and get two. So it's also very economical because I mean, one of the issues you find with a lot of persons is that they don't do cleanses because of the inconvenience of a cleanse. They prefer, because you're going to be going to the washroom often. You don't want to be on the road. You don't want to be somewhere where you have to use a public washroom. You prefer the comfort of your own home. And Santulan helps in that way because you get a bowel movement anywhere between 6 to 8 hours after you drink it. So we usually recommend you use it on an empty stomach, which is either 30 minutes before a meal, 2 to 3.5 hours after a meal, depending on what it is you would have eaten, right? And with that, we normally recommend that you use it like about 5 o'clock or an hour before your dinner. Most people would have dinner like about 7, 8 o'clock. So in doing that now, if you count 4 to 8 hours, that will carry you to like 12 o'clock in the night, or very early in the morning, all 3, 4. So you could very well do your cleanse, get your benefit from your cleanse, and still go to work the next day and not have to worry about having to run to the washroom or anything like that. So
How is it applied? Your product there, you put it in water because you say it's in a pack.
right. So it's primarily 3 tea bags, and the 3 tea bags would give you a gallon of tea. A gallon is 4 liters. So essentially, what you would do, you'd get 4 liters of water. You remove 2 cups from that. You put that to boil. When it comes to a rolling boil, you turn off your stove, and because you're steeping the tea bags and not draw. Well, we say draw, but you're not boiling the tea bags. There's two completely different things there. So once the water comes to a rolling boil, you remove the pot, whatever the case may be, from the stove. You take the 3 tea bags and you leave it there for 8 hours, and then you throw the 2 cups, which now has the tea and the tea bags, back into your original gallon of water that you removed the 2 cups from in the first place. So you essentially end up with a gallon of tea, which you now store in your refrigerator. Now, following the rule of not really drinking cold things, what we normally recommend is that you take your bottle, you shake it up, you throw out anywhere between 8 to 12 to 16 ounces. We would be able to tell you based on your weight and condition, whatever the case may be. And then you drink that. So you allow it to sit there for maybe like about 15 minutes, half an hour, and then you actually now drink it. So easy application. It doesn't taste that bad either. I mean, compared to, because a lot of women could use it, children could use it. Children from the age of like 3 years and up could do Santulan. The oldest client we have is what, about 98, and they use it. They don't have any problem. So it's not something that's necessarily any age could use it. The dosage, of course, is just going to be adjusted accordingly. Okay.
Questions here. Can you tell me the ingredients in your revitalizer and what are the benefits?
All right, revitalizer. Revitalizer actually has something in it known as pignogenol. Now, pignogenol is a compound that you get from like bark trees, so like pine bark extract and those type of things. That's primarily the main ingredient there. What that does, it is an antioxidant, but it is also what is known as a free radical scavenger. What does that mean? So free radicals are what cause breakdown in your body. If you have a lot of free radical damage in your body, you're going to be very sick. You're going to have problems with your eyes. You're going to be a diabetic. You're going to have problems with hypertension. You may have problems with cardiovascular issue, things like angina. You may have some blocked arteries, that type of thing. So you would want something that would remove a lot of free radicals, because the less free radical damage you have in the body, the greater the likelihood that you are in an environment that is conducive of healing. And that's primarily what the optimizer was designed to do. It's very good for persons with eyesight issues, because one of the things it does is actually improve blood circulation to your brain. So it actually helps with pulmonary circulation, which is circulation above your heart. So someone who may have problems with dizziness, lightheadedness, you have blurred vision, you may have been diagnosed with glaucoma, which is high ocular pressure in the eyes, optimizer would help in that particular situation, or those situations rather.
Another question here. Once again, you're listening to Dr. Batson, Batson and Associates, of course, 627-3223, 625-2257, 306-1065, talking health and, of course, natural remedies you can use. A relative was diagnosed with hyperthyroidism.
Right.
Has grown, has a great goiter, racing heart, and her feet is becoming very dark from the ankles. She is very itchy and perspires a lot. What can you recommend, please?
So they said hyper or hypo?
Hyper.
Hyper. Okay, right, right. Which is high thyroid function. Well, uh, Well, you think a lot of persons getting problems with the thyroid now. Before, a lot of persons were of the opinion that thyroids just primarily had to do with iodine deficiency, but it's a lot more than that. Stress plays a significant role because once you're stressed out and your cortisol level is elevated, that just shows off everything in the body, especially thyroid or endocrine health. So with hypothyroidism, you usually find excessive weight loss, high amounts of sweating, issues with sleep, and a number of other problems. What I would say that individual, if you would have done any type of tests, I don't know if you did blood tests where you would have tested T3, T4, and TSH. TSH is an acronym for thyroid stimulating hormone. You're going to have to do that and get that if you plan to work with us. And then we will do our on our end, our blood analysis just to determine biological terrain because you're going to have a lot of oxidative stress in that body. And then you work from there. From the home perspective, what you could do in the meantime, again, hydration. So look at your water intake. Try and get more hot teas as opposed to drinking cold water. I always tell people if they know how bad cold water is, they wouldn't even own a fridge. Cold water is not your friend. Internally, it does a lot of damage to the body, especially your gastrointestinal system. It makes it 10 times difficult for your food to digest. Good. So those are some of the things they could do. As regards to products that we carry that deal with thyroid, we have one called Thyroid Support. We have Thyroid Formula. We also carry a product known as Inflammation Formula. Very, very popular product because what that does, it actually helps to reduce cortisol levels and reduce inflammation in the body. So anyone who suffers from any autoimmune conditions, things like lupus, fibromyalgia, some of those situations I spoke about, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, and that type of thing. That's something that you could look at getting there. So that office number again, 222-8261. That's 222-8261. You can always call that number for appointments and necessary information as regards to products that we would have discussed. Yes, third base.
For someone going through, well, cancer and dealing with the chemotherapy, um, is there anything that you could recommend?
Could recommend? Yeah, definitely. We do on oncology diets because the thing is once you have been diagnosed with cancer, that's one thing. The thing is your treatment protocol is another. So once you're doing chemotherapy, and then it depends on the type of chemotherapy you're doing, then you should have some sort of nutritional regime that you should be following because, of course, we know you're going to kill fast growing cells, which include hair follicles, eyes, whatever the case may be. So, a lot of times when you do chemo and radiation, you find you get a lot of problems with your bones afterwards, your musculoskeletal system, your gastrointestinal system, that type of thing. So, there are diets that we could do that would not interfere with your chemo and radiation in terms of the effectiveness of it, but it's going to help your body because nutritionally you're not sound, which is why you had cancer in the first place. So you need to work assiduously, for want of a better expression, on correcting those digestive issues that you may have. Immune is a big aspect when you're dealing with cancer because immune deficiency is what is responsible for any type of cancer, whether it's colorectal, prostate, breast, you name it. Okay, so that's something we can do for you. You could always give us a call. That number again, 222-8261. That's 222-8261. You'll just let me know how we going with time, right? To this, I'll know how to work it.
We're going to talk.
Okay, good, no problem. All right, so again, those telephone numbers for the studio. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call.
627-3223 and 625-2257 and WhatsApp 306-1065. We have most of them coming from the WhatsApp here. Good afternoon, Dr. Batson. Great trader on the information. Type 1 diabetes. Can diabetes, it cannot be cured, but it has to be controlled. But what do you recommend for somebody
with diabetes? Type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes. Excellent question. I mean, the thing is, cure is a word I don't use or you shouldn't use because that's a litigious word that could put you in court. So we'll use a word that wouldn't put you in court. We'll use the word reverse, right? Which connotation from the English language, you look at the meaning, and both of those is two completely different meanings. But in any case, reversal is possible where diabetes is concerned. When you're dealing with type 1 diabetes, and this is something that I think a lot of people with diabetes do not understand. If you are diabetic, there are a number of reasons why you can be diabetic. One, But primary reason is always your gastrointestinal system. It starts off with the inability to properly assimilate food. Now, when we're looking at food, we're looking at basic. So we're talking about protein, carbohydrates, fats. Right. So the thing is, when you're looking at your carbohydrates, you have what is known as complex carbohydrates and simple carbohydrates. So rice, bread, anything flour-based is usually simple carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates would fall in the category of things like quinoa, families from the grain, and then things like your ground provision, that type of thing. And the reason that complex carbohydrates is better is because complex carbohydrates provide two things, soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber actually helps to reduce blood sugar levels or blood glucose levels in the bloodstream. And insoluble fiber, as I mentioned a while ago, helps to decrease the transit time of your bowel movement. So it makes your bowel movement shorter, quicker elimination of waste, faster digestion, that type of thing. How does that help someone with diabetes? It's going to help because it's going to actually help, especially type 1 diabetes means that the cells in the pancreas, the islet of Langerhans, those cells, they are they're there, but they're not effective and efficient in their process. So the cell's not dead, contrary to popular belief, but what they are, they're lethargic, they're not functioning properly. And that's where things like cleanses and detox come in. That's where things like your diet come in, because you need more greens. Naturally, the human diet and the requirement for the human body is going to be a lot of greens. Now you have different category of greens. So you have your basic, which things would be like your lettuce, your things like callaloo, kale, those type of things. Then you have what is known as nutrient-dense greens. That's when you go in the category of things like spirulina, alfalfa, and those type of things. So the point I'm making is that someone who is a diabetic, if you have diabetes, whether it's type 1 diabetes and you're on insulin, type 2 diabetes, which is diabetes mellitus, and you're on medication, so you'll be things on glucophage, Dionil, diamicron, whatever the case may be. The objective at Batson and Associates, when we deal with clients like that, is to fix. You have to make adjustments to your gastrointestinal system, your metabolic system as well. Your liver also plays a significant role in diabetes. Most diabetics, their liver not healthy. And I don't care what blood test you do. It means a lot of times because the liver is the organ that deals with the most amount of metabolism or functions of metabolism in the body in terms of what it does with glucose and whatever the case may be. So definitely reversal could take place, but it requires a very precise diet, especially in the initial aspect. Afterwards, when you're over certain hurdles, then you could reintroduce, what I call the 20%, 80% diet. 80% sensible, healthy things, and then 20%, the rubbish and the nonsense. Because you can't use 100% sugar because you don't want too much of sugar in your diet. You do not want too much of hydrogenated oils and those things because they actually cause significant spikes in blood sugar readings and that type of thing. So that's something we deal with and deal with quite effectively. So you could feel free to give us a call, come in, have a consultation, or do that package where we include the live blood, the dry blood, as well as your magnetic resonance analysis.
Question here. Hi, doctor. I'm 64 years old. Recently, my fingers are tingling at the tips. What can be causing this? Do you know?
What age they said?
64.
Yeah, well, once you get in tingling, as I said, circulation, tingling going to be affected. Okay, and this applies especially to diabetics. So there's something known as diabetic neuropathy. There's also something known as neuropathy, so the thing is, you could have those pins and needles, tinglings, and have a problem with your nerve as a result of poor circulation. And poor circulation as a result of diabetes. So most diabetics, if they don't deal with it properly, will end up with neuropathy. However, you do not have to be a diabetic to end up with neuropathy. So it's primarily damage to the nerves, which can be corrected over a period of time. And you would find you have less problems with that pins and needles, what they call junjuni feeling in the body. So even with the circulation products that we carry, circulation tea we don't have right now. I mean, that's one of the most popular teas that we carry. We should get in about the next week and a half. That's one that we carry. There's also one known as advanced circulation. But definitely we're going to have to take a look at the blood vessel. Let me just say something quickly. Because usually if I deal with clients who have issues with the head. So you always have problems with dizziness, you have problems with lightheadedness. You'll find that your memory is going, you might be showing certain signs. Usually, what is going to be recommended is that you do something known as an MRI, which is magnetic resonance imaging, or you do a CT scan. CT stands for computer tomography. So, which is basically x-rays, but three-dimensional. So the x-rays from different angles, so they get a three-dimensional view of all the organs and organ systems in the body. Now, I've had instances where people would have done that and it said that it was good, but they still had problems with dizziness, lightheadedness. So in the magnetic resonance analysis scan that we do, there's something we look at known as status of brain tissue blood supply. Now, I'll tell you why this is important. What that tells us is how much or the percentage of blood that is going to your brain. Now, the symptomology I just discussed there, um, lightheaded, blurred vision, glaucoma, poor memory, if you have problems with dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson, if you had strokes, whether it's hemorrhagic, ischemic, if you had TIAs, which are transient ischemic attacks, or commonly known as mini strokes, all of those 9, 10 symptomology is a clear indication of poor circulation and lack of blood flow to your brain. And that's why most people end up with strokes because they didn't realize that the circulation to the brain was being limited over a period of time. And that happens especially to persons. If you're a smoker, if you're someone who not as active as you should be, you run the risk of developing those things. So that is one of the tests that we do. So we look at two aspects. We look at status of brain tissue blood supply, and we look at the blood supply as it relates to the brain in both instances so that we could get an idea of how much blood flow. Then we do what we need to do with you, and then whether it's a month after, 2 months, 3 months after, you come and you redo the test and we compare your results. So apart from you feeling good and getting more improvement, there's empirical data to show that, listen to me, there was an improvement in the amount of circulation that you had before. So that's very, very important. So again, keep in mind that telephone number, which you can call to get any of the offices, whether it's St. James, DB, Tobago, or Chaguanas. That number again is 222-8261. That's 222-8261. And the WhatsApp for us in the office is 314-9975. That is 314-9975. So you may have a question that you may be a little shy about, it might be a little private. You can always message that number and we'll be able to get back to you. Over to you, third base.
All right, once again, another question. Good afternoon. What is Dr. Batson's recommendations for a pre-diabetic with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease?
Good question, man. Um, Definitely a cleanse. Definitely. Anytime you're going in the range of pre-diabetic, you need to look at your gastrointestinal system, 7-channel detox, kidney, colon, bloodstream, liver, lymphatic system, skin, and your lungs. What is referred to as pre-diabetes is actually referred to as type 5 diabetes. A lot of people do not know that you have 5 types of diabetes. You have type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 is gestational diabetes, which pregnant women experience. Type 4 is what is known as insulin deficiency, something I can't remember the full name, and the next one is glucose intolerance. So most people start off with type 5 diabetes, which is pre-diabetes. So you might do a HbA1c, and the A1c, which is supposed to be anywhere between, we don't like anything over 6.3. When you go over 6.3 and you're reaching on 6.5, 6.8, you are referred to as being pre-diabetic. So look at your water intake. You definitely need to look at that. You can also look into the premium alkaline water that we carry at Batson and Associates. It's called Alkagen and available at any of our offices as well as delivery. And you also need to look, as I said, at your digestion because you need some help in breaking down your foods. Cut out the sugars, the simple sugars, so things like your bread and that type of thing, not too much on that end. And you would start to see some results there. And then after that, if you desire some more help, well, then you could give us a visit. But definitely, when you're in the realm of pre-diabetes, you want to keep it, you want to go back because it's easier to fix that. The hardest type of diabetes to fix is type 1 diabetes. And that is dependent on the age of the patient. If you're anywhere in the vicinity of maybe about 10 to about 40 years, you're in a good place where you could fix faster, for want of a better expression. Once you're over the age of 45, 50, it requires some more work, but it is still possible. Okay?
In terms of a cleanse, how often should one cleanse?
That is dependent on on diet and occupation, lifestyle. So if you work and there's actually a promotion that we do, and I'm glad they asked that question, called the engine promotion. And that promotion was specifically designed for mechanics, people who are auto mechanics, hairdressers, persons who work as gas station pump attendants, if you're working transporting the people gas, whatever. Once you're dealing with certain chemicals, nail tech, those type of things, that engine promotion was for you guys. So you can check that out where you have your Santulan, 3 bottles of the Alkagen water, and then there's a new detox, a green detox that we actually have, which is going to be paired with that to help persons in that situation. So the point is, if you work in chemicals, you work in oil and gas, you work in jewelry, people who work at jewelers deal with some of the most toxic chemicals they have. They inhale those things. Keep in mind, chemicals enter the body in 3 ways. Well, four. Three. Dermally, ocularly through your eyes and through your respiratory system. So a lot of persons in those type of jobs should do cleanses at least maybe 4 times for the year. If you're a meat mouth, so you're a little on the, you like meat, then you should cleanse even more because, as I said, when you use a lot of meat, it causes a lot of nitrogenous waste in that whole process. And as a result of that, it can cause a lot of problems, especially with your kidneys as well. So if you should lower the meat intake and, you do your cleanse like maybe 3 times for the year, that type of thing. So that's something you'd have to look at individually for each individual.
All right, that's it for the WhatsApp questions there. Anybody feel free to call 627-3223 or 625-2257. And any more WhatsApps will be 306-1065. We have just about 2 more minutes.
Definitely. So let me just give you those telephone numbers again. Keep in mind those locations. We are located on the first floor of Money Talks building. That is Money Talks building in Montrose, Shogunas. That telephone number is 222-8261. That's 222-8261. Debe is the corner of Ramsamwood Trace and the SS Erin Main Road in Debe. Keep in mind that office has now resumed opening from Monday to Saturday. So you can have your consultations, your blood analysis, your scan, those things from Monday, through the entire week now, and that applies to all offices. So keep that in mind. That telephone number again, 222-8261. The WhatsApp number is 3149975. And of course, based on what we're discussing here, you could always check out our social media pages. We are Batson and Associates Limited on Facebook. On Instagram, we are Batson and Associates TT. On YouTube, we are Batson and Associates Trinidad. Let me say a pleasant good afternoon. On Facebook, we have Miss Sharon Theodore, Miss Pamela Moses. A pleasant good afternoon to you, Miss Regina Murray. Someone just asked a question here quickly, Miss Nandlal. She was asking about poor circulation. So is there any way, right? And this was basically to highlight what someone spoke about. She's asking about Bell's palsy. Now, Bell's palsy is a neurological issue that primarily interferes with the nerves and causes a lot of problems. Sometimes you see it with the face, where you see it look as if someone has gotten a stroke. So that does have a lot to do with circulation, and that is something we would have dealt with before. So again, you could feel free to give us a call or visit. So as we always say at Batson and Associates, if you think health is expensive, try sickness. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So this is always a pleasure to be in your company, sir. To the listeners of Freedom 106.5 FM, do enjoy the rest of your Thursday afternoon. Till next week, God bless and take care of yourselves.
Thank you very much, sir. Once again, you've been listening to Batson and Associates Holistic Health Consultant. Heard every Thursday right here on Freedom 106.5.
Are you someone who always has something to say and share with the world? Do you know expressing your thoughts and opinions?
Okay. Yes. So Facebook, I could kind of deal with you guys now. So Miss Marge Hills, she said, "Good day, Miss Pat Ashton. Good day to you, Miss Pat Ashton. Ask about ingrown toenail. The thing is, when you're dealing with ingrown toenails, a lot of times you have to do something with the shoes you wear too, look at your shoes, look at how you cut your nails as well too. Some people, depending on how you cut your nails, that could cause some problems too. Hygiene is also very important. Things like you have various things you could use to actually sanitize, clean your feet properly, and that would also help in that situation. Miss Elizabeth Mary, pleasant good afternoon to you. Miss Kelsha Pahote. Hey doc, do you treat keloids or any product that can be used for the same? Keloids. What I have found with keloids is I would say get some vitamin E. Double the dose of vitamin E. A detox could also help as well because a lot of the times there's buildup of certain chemicals in the body. And we could see how you go with that. Miss Sharon Theodore, blessed good afternoon to you, Dr. Batson. What can be used to remove a cyst from one of your kidneys? Thank you for the information. Kidney tea. Kidney tea is very good. Inflammation formula is good. Enzyme formula is also very good as well. All right. Doc, I just came from your office in Davie, or that was Miss Pamela Moses. Pleasant good day to you. Miss Felicia James, how do you know when you are a diabetic? Go and do a test. Do a HbA1c. Some people say talk about urine and feeling. No, go and do a test. I always tell persons that. Yeah, Shaki, you asking something?
All the time because on this program, unless you plan to continue.
No, I'm not planning to continue. I'm going to finish up here. Yeah. So yeah, because we have our next program with DJ Mamu, RadioTT.com, and that's at 2:15. So I need to say my goodbyes to you. So those of you who may have something that you ask, because I wasn't able to go through Instagram so much. You all know when I do those radio programs, it's very difficult to maneuver the questions from there and then remove deal with our questions. So you could join us on that program. It's djmamuradiott.com, and that starts at 2:15, and we go from 2:15 till 3. So until such time, God bless, and do enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Take care. Pleasant good afternoon to you, Miss Nandlal.